Hey there, fellow fish enthusiasts. My name's Mario, and been lurking around on everybody's channel for probably about 5 months now, and finally got the courage and to start my own channel and tell you a little bit about myself. Been in the fish hobby, well, since I was a kid, really. I remember my dad got his first fish tank way back in like the late 70s or early 80s, and it's a big 55-gallon semi-hex, and we had it stocked with, remember he got platies, and he had some angelfish in there, and swordtail, and from what I recall, that was our first fish in there. And then after that, it became home for an Oscar, which got way too big for the tank and was its sole inhabitant for many years. And then he had a Dempsey and some catfish my cousin had brought from a river he had caught, and those two cohabitated till the catfish finally died. Yeah, the Dempsey was there for a while on its own, and I remember one day I tried to feed it. I brought some feeder fish. I thought, okay, this thing eats feeder fish. So I bought some goldfish, some feeder goldfish, and I threw them in there, and he kind of went after one of them, took a bite, spit it out, and decided he was going to be a vegetarian. So I ended up with goldfish and a Dempsey in the tank. So I had to buy him these big spirulina flake food that local fish store sold. And that's what he ate along with the goldfish. And I had the Dempsey for probably up until, I want to say, the early 90s. And then once that died, I asked my dad if I could have that tank. And he said, yeah, go ahead and take it. So I tore it all down and rebuilt it and did absolutely everything wrong, like most beginning fish keepers, and stocked it full of like weird stuff that just didn't get along. I remember I had like a sturgeon in there and elephant nose and I don't know, some kind of loach and then coolie loaches, and they all died, needless to say. I don't know if you guys remember in the 90s. I remember seeing it at like this small fish store that we had back down in San Jose, and it was these underwater LED kits. And so I thought that looked cool back then, right? And I bought all that. It's like these little crystals, and they had these LEDs in them. And I don't know, it was like the start of the LED thing. They were really expensive back then. And they're all right, but they didn't last too long. I mean, it was technology, and when LEDs really hadn't come along as it has now. I had that for a little while, and it was a mess, let me tell you. It was very disheartening, and I kind of didn't like it too much after that, but I've always been, into fish and stuff. So I picked it back up when I got married, and I brought that tank here to my new home. I immediately had stocked it with initially some platies, some Mickey Mouse platies and stuff, and they bred for a while. I got some cherry barbs in there too. So the platies bred, and finally the strain gave out, and they just kind of stopped breeding, and they all died out. And so I managed to breed the cherry barb. I don't know how they did it, but they managed to breed once, and I had one fry, but it didn't last too long. And after that, I filled it with guppies, and, well, you know how it goes. Once upon a time, there were 2 guppies. Now look how many there are. So my fish tank became way overstocked with guppies, and it got neglected for a long time, and it was a couple times where I really wasn't doing water changes, and, I get disheartened. I like the guppies, but I just wanted more, and I got a bit overwhelming with them. I didn't know what to do. I only had one tank. So, I failed to do some water changes, and some died, and they, in the plants, and I didn't find them, or I just didn't pull them out, and so it created like a muck, and, I had ammonia spikes, and more of them died, and finally one day I just completely took out all the living guppies and cleaned it up. It was okay for a while, and I was taking better care of it. And then that was still the 55-gallon. And then it started leaking one day from one of the seams. And this thing was like ancient, like I said, from the 80s or late 70s. And so I'm surprised it lasted that long. But it finally sprung a leak on a seal, and I didn't know how to fix it. So I went out that day and I bought this one, the 49-gallon Bowfront. And I moved all the fish over, and kind of, give me an excuse to tear down the 55. which I gave to a buddy of mine who was going to use it for like for reptiles, whatever. I didn't know about cycling back then, and so yeah, that's right. I filled it up, cleaned all the media and the filter, and put in all new gravel. And I wasn't doing sponge filters back then. I had this old Magnum 350, which I think maybe that one had leaked too. Maybe I had gotten this new Magnum hang-on back, which I currently have, and new filter. So of course it didn't cycle, and I lost more guppies. And I've had guppies in there since then, just the same strain kind of inbreeding, and now they've turned into this weird strain that I don't even know if it is a strain, but I haven't seen anything like them. So I call them my California Sunsets. And suddenly I had a tank full of guppies again after going lean for a few months. And so, and like I said, those overstocked, and I had some plants. I got into the natural plants, and the first plant I put in there, some water wisteria, and I still have it. I mean, you can see it here. It's like, no matter how much I crop, that thing just dominates the tank, and I love it. It's like my go-to plant for all my new tanks. I know if I throw wisteria in there, it'll thrive and grow, and I won't have any issues with it. I've recently got more types of plant, some rotala and some wort and stuff like that. So I'm kind of playing around with plants, and been watching Dustin's channel, really cool, and Jacob's Aquariums and stuff. Good information on plants, and Rachel Leary and Bob Steenfont, and of course Corey, Flip Aquatics, and Susan at SLC Aquatics. I thank you personally, and kind of like after watching your last live stream. We're in like July right now. I know you had a live stream, and then there wasn't many of us in there, and I jumped on. It was maybe like 4 of us, and you had actually acknowledged me. I was like, hey, I haven't seen you before, so I appreciate that. That kind of gave me the jump start, I guess, to kind of get me to do my own thing. It's just like, okay, I'm really a part of this. And I might have something to contribute. As I follow you guys, and I try to watch, and Dwayne, I can't forget Dwayne, and I'll watch you guys whenever you can. Every once in a while I might lurk on a live stream, ask some questions, but mostly I've just kind of laid back and sat back and really haven't engaged anybody. So hopefully this will give me an opportunity to kind of engage people and make friends in the hobby, because I've seen varying levels of expertise on these channels. People just learning, and and it doesn't matter, I guess, the level of experience. I feel like everyone has something to contribute, so hopefully I can, and just if not just even learning or teaching or whatever, it's just sharing our tanks with one another. I'm always surprised to see how different everyone's tanks look. How people decorate, what kind of plants they choose, what kind of fish they choose. And you don't see 2 tanks that are the same ever. Even if they have the same type of fish, they all look different, and the fish look different. They look one way in one person's tank and completely different in another person's tank, and they act differently. Some school differently. Some, it's amazing. It's kind of a very interesting hobby, and you tell people you're a fish keeper and you have 3 tanks, and they're like, 3 tanks? I had a goldfish from the fair once, and it died. Kept it in a bowl and, filtered it with dirty socks. I don't know what they did with the things. They say, well, why do you like fish? I mean, you can't play with them, you can't pet them, you can't snuggle with them. And I say, well, you can snuggle your fish, but it's not going to be the best experience for you or the fish. It's not just keeping a pet. It's not just putting a bowl of food down or give it a box to poop in. It's you're creating more than just keeping a pet. You're creating like an entire ecosystem. You're creating an environment for an animal, and you can shape that environment. And you try to balance it out with different things. You have your bottom feeders, you have your top, you have your snails, you have shrimp, your cleanup crews and stuff. And it's more than just a pet. It's more than just a fish in a bowl. And it's kind of hard to explain that to people if they've never really experienced the thrill of it. But we in the hobby, we know. We know how cool it is. And so I thank you guys for sharing your stuff. So hopefully this will give me an opportunity to kind of engage people and make friends in the hobby, because I haven't found, there's no local clubs here that I found in Sonoma County. I'm in California, by the way, Northern California. And we have about 3 local fish stores nearby, not counting the Petco and PetSmarts and Walmart. Ugh. And they're all right. There's one down in San Rafael that I've kind of acquainted more. It's a smaller one. They sell other kind of pet stuff. They're not strictly a fish store, but got to know, talk to the owner and a couple of the employees, gave them some of my guppies, and I think they sold. I didn't see them last time I was there. They died, but I think he said they sold, so it's good, I'm glad I got some of my little strain out there, or variant, I should say. So my new thing is, I got the new 5.5 gallon, the cherry shrimp tank, so I'm pretty excited about that. I bought initially 10, and a couple died, about 3 died, and so once that settled down, I got 10 more, and now I see there's have some that are buried. I got carrying eggs, and I'm excited, so I think I should probably get them out of that 5.5 and maybe put them in the 10. So we'll see how that goes. So right now I have 3 tanks currently. I have a 49-gallon bow front and a 10-gallon one behind me, and then the 5.5 gallon. My wife seems to be very concerned with it. She's wondering if it's becoming a problem, and I know that many of you will agree that MTS is a problem. It's a thing. And I'm not going to show you any this time. We'll leave that for later videos, as we can explore those tanks. And my 49 is a big community tank, and it just has all kinds of interesting things in there that seem to all get along, and it works for me. And I have to make a confession, though. Today I took advantage of the Petco $1 a gallon and went and bought 2 20 longs that are now in my garage on a shelf. And we'll see what I do with those. Thinking of replacing the 10-gallon with one of those, kind of moving stuff around, and then maybe moving the 10-gallon into the garage, which I want to turn into a little mini fish room. Yeah, because the 10-gallon right now is just a female guppy tank, sorority tank, and I did that because my 49 got way overstocked with guppies. I pulled all the females out, put them in their own 10-gallon, many of which continued and still continue to put out fry. As I see males in there, as they grow up, I pull them out, put them into the 49. And so my males are in here, along with some other fish that I've wanted and kept. And so now I'm going to try my luck at breeding. I started off with this 5.5 gallon cherry shrimp breeding tank. I know, I watch Rob and Flip Aquatics, and you don't use a 5.5 gallon, but hey, I'm short on room. That's all I had, so it's what I got to deal with. I will, maybe I'll move them to the 10 gallon once I get rid of that, swap it out with the 20. So sorry, Rob, if that offends you. I know, I should have listened, but guy's got to do what a guy's got to do. I'm happy my wife didn't make me just tear down the 5.5 gallon when it just showed up mysteriously, but whatever. Right now I have the 220 long strategically covered with some towels, so hopefully she won't find those too soon. She doesn't mind the fish, but she's not a fish person. So yeah, so that's the challenge I have at home. I hope you guys will stick around for upcoming videos. I think a couple of people who've currently subscribed. I'm sorry I didn't have anything up until now. But yeah, this is what I do, and hopefully you guys can grow in the hobby with me, and we can continue learning from each other. So I just hope to have a lot more videos to offer in the future. So thank you guys, and we'll talk to you later. Keep tanking.